everybody, it's Julie Ebersole for Hero Arts, and today I'm going to be working with some brand new stamps from the Hero Arts 2014 catalog. And that's right around the corner. I'm going to be using the Tiny Flags background stamp and Nicest Thoughts to make a clear card. And I'm going to start by taking one of the clear cards and I'm going to flatten it out along that fold line. They come pre-scored and folded, but I needed a really flat surface for this. So I flattened it out, and then I'm going to mask off the back with a Post-it note. I keep a pad of these on my work surface, and they're perfect for A2 cards, coincidentally. And I'm going to ink up the Tiny Flags background stamp with some StazOn cotton white. And you want to make sure when you're stamping on a clear or a slick surface that you go straight down and come straight up, and you're using a great ink that's designed for non-porous surfaces like StazOn cotton white. This is going to give me a nice opaque finish, and there you can see I got a great crisp impression. And I could heat set it, but I also knew I had other parts of the card to work on, and I could just set it aside to air dry while I worked on those. So I'm going to take this sentiment and ink it up with some Versamark. I prepped the surface of my black layering paper with an anti-static pouch, so that'll eliminate any embossing powder from sticking where I don't want it to. And then I'll go ahead and impress that onto the paper and pour over the top my favorite white embossing powder. This is Hero's white embossing powder, and I absolutely love it because it just embosses so smoothly. It's a nice bright white. Now I did preheat my gun for about a minute, and this will help reduce some of the warping. I am going to get a little bit of warping because I realized I had my heat gun kind of close there to the paper. I don't know why I did, but anyway, you want to make sure that you melt the powder until there's no grainy spots left and it's all nice and shiny. And then, of course, after it's cooled, you can take your scissors and cut it out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that very quickly off camera. I'm not going to make you watch me do that part. And my clear card is now completely dry, and I'm ready to move on to the next part. Now I had this pad of paper, this is by We Are Memory Keepers, that had a really neat ombre effect paper. And so I just trimmed that to size to cover up the front of a snow card that's already pre-cut and scored. So I went ahead and folded the card, and then I'm just going to go ahead and take this panel and mount it to the front of my card. And I wanted to have the gradation of color going off onto the right hand side because I wanted as high a contrast as I could get between that color and my transparency overlay. And then to mount this card inside my clear card, I'm just going to use some glue dots. And I love glue dots that have the sheets and they're perforated. And so you can put a glue dot in each corner. It's different than using the roll because you've got that backing paper that's still in place. And this is great for people like me who kind of need to make sure they've got everything in place before they nail it down permanently. Because otherwise we get it crooked or something, and then we have to try to take it apart. So I'm sure that's where I want it to go, so then I can peel off those corners and make sure that they're going down exactly where I want them. So that's why I love these glue dots that come on the perforated sheets. They're just so perfect. I love them. So we'll get that all four corners mounted in place on the back side of the card, and I don't need to worry about mounting anything to the front. So that's just going to fold over the top there. So we'll just go ahead and crease it there and make sure it's laying correctly. And then I'm going to take some washi tape. This is just from my stash. I think this is by Prima. But I just had this color, and I wanted this color for this particular card, so I just reached into my stash and grabbed it. And I'm going to go ahead right over the top of the overlay and trim it very quickly with some scissors. And then because I have that raw edge there, I'm just going to fold it right over the edge of the transparency and fold it over on the back side so it has a nice finished edge. You could trim it off flush with your scissors if you wanted to, but I just went ahead and folded it over. And then I'll take the sentiment that I embossed and trimmed out, and I will 3D mount that. There's some foam dots there on the back of that. And of course I had to kind of decide if I wanted it dead center over that washi tape or kind of shifted over to the right, and I finally decided to move it to the right. It's all about, I have to eyeball things and make sure it looks good before I go ahead and set it down. And then as one last embellishment, I added an enamel dot and some sequins. And the sequins aren't self-adhesive, but you can just use some glossy accents to glue those into place. And I think they're a nice accent that kind of ties all the colors of the enamel dots together. And I just love how a transparency overlay looks on a card like this. Thanks for watching.